That community where you're able to get all of this put together is very important. Nobody's an island. Even the so-called newbies in that community have been a part of my journey.
There's this big news that I wanted to officially share for the first time. I got the opportunity to be nominated at the SOVAS Awards. Chilo every year keeps getting nominated. It keeps being the most nominated talent. And I would say that well deserved. Like, it's been a boss. Chilo is like 25 years into the game or something like that.
So when I started in 2012, I think it was just like a hobby and, just enjoying the fact that I could make money. But I didn't know the business of voiceover until, like you said, just after the lockdown. While I had Eric holding my hands and Dimitri and Lord Frank holding my hand all the while, I stumbled upon the voiceover workshop conference on YouTube.
There was always this argument of, you don't need social media. And what we later realized is that era, that generation of voice actors, they grew without social media.
As someone who's behind the scenes, that day at the conference, so many talented voiceover artists, people are excited, they're thinking about the opportunities, the speakers, and it's time for Africa to tell its stories. Look at all the voices that will be telling our stories. It's very interesting. It's really very interesting.
Hey, it's another episode. Yeah, we're here. Sarah, I just noticed that we are twinning again today. What you're putting on black on black, I'm putting on black on black. What's going on? We don't plan these things, but they happen.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's nice to be here. Nice to see you and to see our guest. So we have a great guest today with us in today's episode. But before we go into our guest, let's just say welcome to the Everything Voiceovers podcast. And this is the podcast where we talk about voiceovers from the African perspective. So one of the things we want to do is, our main goal is to explore people who are voiceover artists in the continent and see how they're doing voiceovers, see their struggles, their wins, their successes, their stories, get inspired, and know more about the African space when it comes to voiceover. And myself, who is your host, Tcode, and Serah Johnson, who is co-host, the beautiful, amazing, sweet voiceover artist, studio engineer. What else should I add to your I don't even know, founder of Talk Studios. Yeah. So Serah and I, we come here every week to give you new episodes of the Everything Voiceovers podcast. Now, if you're listening to this via any podcast from listening platform, I want you to know that you can also watch us on YouTube. Last week, we had a great episode with the amazing Paula Gammon, like one of the most sought after voice director for animation, super talented woman, and she knows her stuff. She's the voice director for Iyanu, the animated series, which we'll be expecting by spring next year. And if you want to know everything about the voice directing world and how she did an amazing job with Iyanu, with me, Sarah, and a host of other casts on the project, you could go listen to that episode. But now, in today's episode, we want to talk to one of our colleagues here in Nigeria who has been an amazing talent. I've known her for the past couple of 3 to 4 years now. I think she'll be 4 years. And she's also been an inspiration to me. I'll tell you guys how she's been an inspiration to me much later. But we've got the beautiful, delectable Christianne Lamba. Hi, Christianne. Hello. You just learned it. The love, what do we call this now? The sign, the hand sign, the love hand sign. Yeah. You're welcome. It's nice to see you, Christian. A quick backstory, right? Some months ago, it should be 6 to 8 months now, Christian. I remember we had a recording. We were literally recording the next episode of the Everything Voiceovers at the time. It was on video, and that thing that happened across Nigeria and even some West African countries where MTN's network provider, just went off the radar, happened right there while we were recording, and we couldn't record that episode anymore. So it's good to have you back, Christian. The second coming of Christianne Lamba. Yeah. So before we get into conversations with you, Christian, Sarah, let's just do a bit of catching up. What's going on with you? What's been happening with you voiceover wise? You want to gist us, or you can even talk about things besides voiceover. I'm curious to know.
It's been a little slow since the last time we had our podcast or mostly just projects all like, so I think since the last time we recorded, it's been more personal than work. We've been doing more personal stuff.
Yeah, I see. Sometimes, we're not just voiceover artists. We have a life, right? We have things going on in our lives. You go to the gym. It's been a long time I went to the gym, though. But we have other things. We have interests. We cook, we sleep, we wake, we chat, we have family, right? And it's good to always touch base with all of those things because some people will think that, oh, well, these guys, they just voiceover. Nah, it's not always like that. Yeah, but yeah, it's been a great. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, me. Okay, so my week has been cool. I've been doing some upgrades. I replaced one of the boards in my studio just so that I can have it more aesthetically pleasing. I've been getting some equipment to add to the ones I have. I'm paying more attention to video these days. So yeah, I've been adding some of those stuff. What else? There's this big news that I wanted to officially share for the first time here on the podcast. Right? So guys, for the first time ever, I got the opportunity to be nominated at the SOVAS Awards. That was, yeah, outstanding commercial, radio, streaming, or web, best African voiceover. You guys are hearing it for the first time. We're sharing what?
That means you guys are sharing, like we're sharing a bottle of wine at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I'll throw yours. Actually. Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you. Like I got the news yesterday. I was just waking up and I checked my phone and I was like, wow. You know that thing where sleep would just clear for your eyes straight off? I was so excited. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's not over yet. It's not over yet. And Sarah who is congratulating me also is a one-time SOVAS award. Is it once? I think you've been nominated. Was it once you were nominated or more? But I think you won. No. You won one, right? Yes, you are, Christian. Thank you. So apparently I'm not the only Nigerian that got nominated. As a matter of fact, we have more Nigerians nominated than any other country in Africa. And interestingly, for the past 2 years, I think, no, this is the third year that SOVAS will be bringing in Africans, right? 2 years ago, they began to allow Africans, like they gave us literally a list of categories. I think they started with like 3 or 4 then. And I've been keeping tabs with that. The first one I remember on this podcast, I gave people a download of the people who were nominated, who won, and all. The following year after that, I didn't do that exactly on the podcast because we're having a break from the season we just concluded. But I did give the updates on my Instagram, on my stories. So this year, this is the third time, and luckily for me, I am now a nominee, and I'll still do the same to like give people a download of the people who were nominated, right? So we just celebrate them because, again, remember, one of the purposes of this podcast is to document our stories, our progresses, and our successes and all. So yeah, guys, are you guys ready to hear the people who got nominated? And let me just start by saying, I see they're excited already. Start by saying that there is, I don't know how to explain it, but let me just go and say, Chilulemba is now like, would I say Chilulemba is a cheat in our industry? Because Chilu every year keeps getting nominated. It keeps being the most nominated talent. And I would say that well-deserved. Like, it's been a boss. Chilu is like 25 years into the game or something like that. So he's a veteran. I didn't get that, Sarah.
I said that's exactly what I was going to say. Here for a while, and he was in this industry in times where our work wasn't celebrated. So now that our work is getting celebrated, and we're getting awarded for it, he might as well put it for all the categories. Big ups to you, Chilulemba.
Shout out to Chilulemba. So I started with that to just let you know that you might be hearing Chilu in most of the categories, so just have your minds prepared for that. So there are a couple of categories opened to Africans, and I'm just gonna get right into it. So we've got outstanding audiobook narration, best African voiceover. And the first person on the list is Remi Olutimai from Nigeria. Shout out to Remi. And then also nominated in that category is Stephanie Ugbe from Nigeria. Shout out to Stephanie. That's the vocal expressionist. Yeah. She's been a winner as well before, and she was nominated twice, I think, in that, that last year's award. Yeah, so Stephanie Ogbe, interestingly, is nominated twice under this category. Right. For 2 different audiobooks. What did you say? Yeah. So all the 3 people nominated the 2 people nominated is Remi and Stephanie Ogbe under the outstanding audiobook narration category. Stephanie, 2 nominations, Remi 1. Moving on, we've got outstanding commercial, TV or streaming, best African voiceover, and you've got Chilu Lamba, nominee 1. The second nominee, Chilu Lamba, nominated twice. And third nominee, Oluwafemi Olubade, that's Femi Bakes, right? Shout out to Femi Bakes, congratulations. He's also been consistent with getting nominations at the SOVAS Awards last year's thing, I think the first time too. And the fourth person again, Oluwafemi Olubade. 2 nominations for Femi Bakes under the outstanding commercial, TV or streaming. And the 5th person in this category is Oluwaseun Shobo. That's the brand master himself, founder of the Voiceover Academy. Yeah. Congratulations. So that makes 3 people in this category. Yeah. The next is the outstanding commercial, radio, streaming, or web. Best Azo. Yeah, she had a nomination. And the second person to be nominated that's me.
Congratulations, Tcode.
Yeah, thank you. And still in the same category, we've got Chilu Lamba. So we've got Chilu Lamba. And next person on this category is Oluwafemi Olubade, Femi Bakes.
Nice.
I think, yeah, thank you. And so this is the 3rd nomination for Femi Bakes, and this should be the 3rd for Chilu Lamba as well, or the 3rd for Chilu Lamba. Yeah. And lastly on that list, we've got Lucy Wache from Kenya. Shout out to Lucy.
Congratulations, Lucy. Well done.
Yeah. And then the next category, we have outstanding narration, TV or film, best African voiceover. First person is Afoma Eziokoye. That's Oma the storyteller. Congratulations to Oma. Outstanding narration.
Incredibly proud.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And then we've got Deborah Elizabeth Johnson from Nigeria. Vanilla Deborah. Shout out to her. Outstanding narration. And then we've got Chilu Lamba. This is his 4th nomination. And then we've got, just a second, guys. We've got McDonald Nkemda from Nigeria here. I believe, right? Yeah, I'm going to verify if it's Nigeria. But McDonald Nkemda, I hope to meet McDonald. Shout out to you. Congratulations. And the 5th person from South Africa. Yeah, from South Africa, we've got Atibo Onen. Atibo Onen, she's been a nominee in the past. I'm not sure. I guess she's won in the past too, because I've been following this. So shout out to her. And we've got Oluwaseun Shobo from Nigeria. The Brandmaster's 2nd nomination in the narration category, outstanding narration. And last, Yeah, and last but not least is Lucy Hey again. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to Lucy. Yeah. The 2 nominations for Lucy, 2 for the Brand Master, 4 for Chilulemba, and 3 for Femi Bakes. Let's go to the next category. We've got Outstanding Spoken Word or Storytelling Best African Performance. Spoken Word Storytelling Best African Performance. The first person we've got here is Deborah Johnson, right here from Nigeria.
Wow.
That's Vanilla. And this is our second nomination so far this year.
I think that's a
We've got
different
Stella. Are you? Oh, really? I mixed that up. Sorry, Deborah's.
There's
Deborah Johnson. But then the first person I mentioned is Deborah Elizabeth Johnson. And then this time around, we've got Deborah Johnson. So
so I think either the Deborah Johnson has her middle name as Elizabeth, because I know Debbie Vanilla was nominated and Deborah Johnson was also nominated. I don't know who is who. They probably just have like a middle name difference, or I don't know. But,
difference, right?
Congratulations, still.
Congratulations, anyway. She's representing the Johnsons this year because last year was Sarah Johnson. Okay, so we've got Selama with Mebratu from Ethiopia. Wow, I'm proud of this person all the way from Ethiopia. I think this is the first time I'm seeing an Ethiopian nominated at the SOVAS. That's a big deal, and I would love us to get reach out to this nominee and know what's going on in the voiceover space in Ethiopia. Awesome stuff. And then our brother right here in Nigeria got another nomination, making it his 4th nomination, Oluwafemi Olubade from Nigeria. So Femi Bakes.
Femi Bakes.
It gets nominated 4 times. Last year, he also had many nominations. 4 times this year. Chilulemba actually got 5 nominations, in case you don't know, because aside all of the African category, Chilulemba actually got nominated in an international category. That's amazing. So the category is Outstanding Body of Work, International Best Voice Actor. Come on, that's a big deal, So I'm so proud of Chilulemba. It's putting us out there, is making us proud as Africans in the global space. And shout out to the OG himself, to the legend himself, Chilulemba. We congratulate you, we celebrate you, sir, and we hope that you bring this home. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this. Next year, again, we'll update you on the SOVAS Awards, and hopefully we would also give you updates as to the winners of the awards this year. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've done a lot of talking. Let's get into the gist for today. So we've got Christianne Lamba, and we want to have her talk to us about her journey into voiceover. So Sarah, I know you're also curious to know a lot about Christianne. So yeah, we will be having the questions thrown to her together. So let me just start, and then we pass the baton. So Christianne, tell us about you. I mean, a lot of us know that you're a voiceover artist, but then there is more to you beyond being a voiceover artist. So no one can tell us about you more than you. Give us, a run about who you are, what you do, the things you love, and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, for those who don't know, I'm an professional African voiceover artist who stumbled on voiceover some 12 years ago. And stumbled because, hey, I didn't know, I probably knew that something like that existed, but didn't know how to get into it. I would say that was I scouted? No, but someone discovered it for me. Besides that, I'm an ambivert. I like to always tell people that. So a bit of an extrovert, a bit of an introvert, depending on where I am and who I'm with, and so many other factors. I like to cook. I love to travel. I think I'm more of a listener than a talker most times. And you have to come close to me to know me, really. For now. Yeah.
Nice, cool stuff, Christian. Are you Nigerian?
Aha. Well, no, I'm not Nigerian. I'm Cameroonian, but I was born in Cameroon. That's why I said I'm an African professional African voiceover artist. But I'm Cameroonian. I was born in Cameroon, raised in Nigeria, spent like some 8 to 10 years in Cameroon at some point in my life in my 20s. And then I'm back here in Nigeria. I schooled here, had my primary and secondary school here, and university back home in Cameroon. And here I am, back here in Nigeria. Love it here. I love it
Really?
Nigeria. Yes.
I mean, I actually always thought you were Nigerian, but hearing you speak, I'm like, that
All right. I get that a lot.
Yeah, you have a very.
Thank you. The funny thing is,
Yeah.
when I'm in Cameroon, people think I sound very Nigerian. But when I'm here, I don't even sound Nigerian. So I've been flown to the east of Africa a lot of times, but hey, I don't know. This is
Amazing.
how I sound.
So,
Wow.
tell us more about like your voiceover career. Although you started on this journey, what inspired you to pursue voiceover?
Right. Okay. So growing up, I mean, I used to love to listen to the news. Sorry, excuse me, someone's leaving. Because I used to love to listen to the news a lot with my father and watch NTA News, listen to all the newscasters, Serah, Zach Lawal, and the likes of them, Frank Polize, all of them, all of the veteran voice broadcasters. I just love this. I love listening to the way they speak or the way they spoke rather. And then I also love to read. My dad would buy us all kinds of magazines. I would read out aloud. Just imagine that people were sitting down there and I'm just reading out loud. So it was something that I enjoyed doing. But again, as a little child, I didn't imagine that I was going to find myself doing this eventually. We all had our dreams, right? At some point, I thought I was going to be a pharmacist. And then I thought I was going to be this. And then I thought I was going to be that. I actually read law and I'm not practicing. So, I mean,
Wow.
it just, one thing led to the other. Yes, Tcode, you're surprised, right? Yes, I read.
Yeah, I was saying how there are
at one point I wanted. I know at one point in time I wanted to translate for the UN and I wanted to be a diplomat. Just so many things, and voiceover didn't come to mind. Broadcaster, newscaster, maybe. Yeah. And then so I returned to Nigeria in 2010. I was in church, and a friend of mine was a producer somewhere on Allen, and he had a client who she had a column in the Punch newspaper. She wanted to just Fumi Akingbade, yes, that's her name. And she had this column on sex talk, and she wanted to just, do the audio version of it. And then he called me, "Oh, Christianne, come to the studio, come and record this thing. You're going to get paid." I'm like, "What? There's something like that?" Your diction is okay and all blah, blah, blah. All right, I'll give it a shot. And now, imagine my first recording was, I mean, are we allowed to say this on this podcast? The genre of what I had to record,
You can say anything
it
you
was
want
sex
to
talk
say
on
on
the
the podcast.
well, it was, I don't know if it was erotica or whatever it was, sex talk. She was just counseling on and all of that kind of thing. And that's my first recording. But anyway, I got paid. It was very exciting. And then I met another person who said he was going to take a course in presentation at the Radio Nigeria Training School. And I thought, "Oh, this is interesting. Also, people can get trained for this thing." That's how I, got trained as a presenter at the Radio Nigeria Training School, 2012. Got my second client. I think that time I was paid 70,000 naira for that gig. So 2011. I was excited.
Wow.
I was like, "This is good money." At 2011, 70,000.
At 2011, that was big money.
Phone number. She could depend this gist now. Give me the phone number and I called the person. And the person asked me to come to STB McCann in Opebi. So I went there. I didn't know who I was meeting. I sat down for like 30 minutes, 1 hour plus, and I called the person. "Oh, I'm on my way. I said, "Okay, no problem." I was talking to the sound engineer, and we're just gisting. I saw different kind of voiceover artists coming, Hausa. I was just in awe of what I was hearing and saw different kinds of script. They gave it to me. I was like, I was anxious, everything. I was excited and anxious at the same time while waiting for these so-called voiceover artists that asked me to wait for him. And then he came in. I didn't know he was the one. I thought it was another voiceover artist. And, we just exchanged banter. And he said to me, hello, how are you? I said, oh, I'm waiting for someone. Do you know who you're waiting for? No, I don't. I said, oh, okay. He sat down there. We exchanged banter for another 20 minutes. And then after some time, he looked at me and said, I'm the one you're waiting for. My name is Eric Maximus. Yeah. So it was Eric.
The great Eric.
So I was supposed to meet Eric, who I've never met. Just got a random phone number that I was looking for a voiceover artist, and then he just saw the way I was fidgeting and how I was reacting and all of that, and he was just trying to pull my legs, and we just laughed over it. And since then, Eric has held my hand in the industry. We would go together from one agency to the other way back. It's not now that we have social media and people are sourcing for jobs in different ways. So we'll go from from agency to agency, agencies trying to get his monies that he's been owed. I learned a lot from him, and I will go back to STP McCann every Friday for an entire year just to watch other voiceover artists, do their thing. That was the beginning of the journey for me. It's been a roller coaster, interesting, sometimes annoying, boring, but hey, we're here. We love it.
I love it. I love the
That's my
gist.
story.
Sarah, did you hear that? Christian has been in the industry since 2010. Like you said, you got your first gig that paid you 70,000
yeah.
naira. 2010
Yes.
or 2011.
Yes.
And you got the train in 2012. This was an era when a lot of us, me, like our generation, did not even dream or even think about, like, we didn't get the concept of voiceover. And
well, you see, the race is not to be swept now. See you being nominated, and Sarah's been nominated. It's not by that.
And again, it's not by nomination, no. Again, no. Do you understand? There are many OGs in this industry. Yeah. But no. Let's just take a segue quickly. I think I need to say this. And this is in respect to people who have been in this industry for years, for decades. Yes. Awards like SOVAS, which started recognizing Africans like 3 years ago, like APVA Awards, which also started 3 years ago. 3 years is just 3 years. The people who have been in this industry for 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I usually wish that we knew more about them. Now, a few of us know about them, but a lot of people who are practitioners these days don't know about them. And so when they're looking at the radar for voiceover artists, they tend to see those of us that are active on social media, and most of people in my generation fall into that category, So sometimes I'm like, you guys, the accolades really, really belong to those folks, those OGs. And you see the name you mentioned now, you just mentioned Eric Maximus. I look forward to the day Eric would be on this podcast. Like,
I know, right?
You see that generation of Eric, and you have Lord Frank, you have Ahide
Interestingly, there's so many people I met along the line. I met Remy before I met Remy. I don't know how that works.
I get you. I understand you.
Before I met Remy, I met Lord. Okay, so I met Eric. I met Dimitri, who is not in Nigeria, is in Canada now. Dimitri led me to Lord Frank. Lord Frank led me to Joy. Joy led me to Mr. Tcode and Serah. Tcode and Serah led me to, and as I went down the line, so many people before I met them, and then it's just amazing. Up to King E, who I stumbled upon on a few years ago on YouTube, just during the lockdown or something like that. And then all these people, I cannot talk about my journey without talking about them. And that's the beautiful thing. And here we are, Tcode and Serah today. We have a long way to go. God keeps us, and then we have so much to do. So
has been and shout out to them. Some of them are in the industry that much. They've got other things going.
Social media actually, but they're doing a lot of groundwork. Because before social media, they had their ways of doing their thing. And they're not just getting to social media yet. I used to say it's not by posting on social media. Some people are doing the groundwork behind and getting the gigs and getting paid.
Podcast, we'll have that conversation with Eric. I remember when I was starting, and there was always this argument of You don't need social media. You need social media. And what we later realized is that that era, that generation of voice actors, they grew without social media. Social media wasn't a thing at the time, and they succeeded. So to them, success in voiceover is not by social media. It's maybe social media could sound like fluke, but for us, it's a different era, and we had to, make use of what was available. So, anyways, that's a conversation for another day. But I'd like you to give us an expose into the world before social media, that era of voice actors, like you talked about, you and Eric every Friday going to watch voice actors perform, going from agencies to agencies, trying to get the money being owed. So give us an insight about that era, that time period, the 2010s, to the late 2020.
So back then, so back then we knew a lot more about agencies on ground. I mean, one agency will tell you about it. I knew STB McCann. I knew so many others on Allen and maybe Sierra and the rest like that. And we would go there. We also had studios where we used to go to record gigs and all that. Some of us didn't have a home studio. So it was important that you knew all of these nooks and crannies, all of these places. You had so many phone numbers. I met Mr. Kali, who was a studio engineer at STB McCann back there. And like I said, I would go there every Friday that was the time I had, just to watch other voiceover artists, the Hausa speaking, the Yoruba, like people you don't know that they exist. I don't think they're on social media right now. They had the best of the best accent, best of the best voice. They knew these things. I mean, they probably don't know all these conversational style read right now, but they knew their own stuff. And, they knew how to market themselves. They knew how to do the groundwork. They knew how to go door to door. They knew the whole email thingy. They knew the importance of relationship. For me, back then, I thought that it was important to go to those places and remain top of mind as opposed to just sending email and sending messages and all of that. You go there, please, it's who they see there often that they remember. If you want, for instance, Khalid to remember you, hey, you better be showing faces there. Nobody had time. I don't think there was WhatsApp. Nobody has time for that. So the more you go there, the more they remember you. Because you're not sending messages or calling people. You just had to be there, go everywhere. And like I said, I will go with Eric to go and demand for his money. Sometimes, the pay wasn't good because the agency will collect the chunk of it and they just give you peanuts. You don't have direct access to the client. So it's whatever it is that they give you. Sometimes, again, I don't know if it's okay to say some of those directors or whatever it is, studio engineers had their favorites. No. And then maybe sometimes their favorites used to just tip them, okay, I'll give you this from this. And then they're the ones who get recalled over and over again. I mean, I saw this happen. Those are kind of experiences that we had then. So it was easy. They know how to push. They know how to knock doors. As opposed to those of us who were trying to get in social media and you're trying to send email and call. But they know how to keep relationships. And whether they're offended or not, they know how to manage those relationships. They're not just burning bridges. They just there and they're always there. You're always on the road. But now, because most of us have our home studios, you just sit in the comfort of your home and you're just calling and I don't think let me not speak for everybody. But I think they did a lot of work. It was hard back then. It was harder than
it was really hard, right?
Yeah.
And how was the process of introducing yourself to agencies or studios, as it were? I used to hear stories of, and I didn't do it because I got exposed at the this era. But then I'd hear that you get audio demos into a CD and take them to studios or agencies. Did you also do that?
Well, I didn't do that. What I did was just walk into a new studio. I did get the security of people that would ask you, what do you want? And you just, I'm a voiceover artist. I want to see the studio engineer. And they'll just assess you, sit down here first. Then after some time, they'll let you in. Well, that's my experience. They will let you in, you meet the studio engineer, and you just talk. Sometimes, well, in my case, they'll just give you a script to record, and they'll save it up there, save your number, and then they'll say you should go. But now, if you just go and stay wherever in your house, or yours is your case, so you have to keep coming back. Like the studio, that's exactly what I did. I would just go there, introduce myself. I didn't go with any CD. They would just record, here's a script, take any script you want, record as many if they have the time. So sometimes we end up sitting there for hours. until all of their clients have come and gone, and all the voiceover artists have come and gone. So it's whenever they have the time for you that you'll be able to record. So you can be there, you go there in the morning, you better eat your breakfast and hold your bottle of water. If they're kind, they'll give you water. So I would just go there and sit down there. Like in the morning on Fridays, you see me going in the morning, you think I'm going to work. I'm just going there to sit down and watch people, and hopefully they will let me record. And then sometimes when they come in, those voiceover artists will correct you. They'll teach you, do it like this, and you have several takes, and just be waiting for the time you have your own breakthrough, and then you get a gig. And that's what we did. So that's what I did.
Cool stuff.
So crazy, Sarah, right? It's crazy, right?
It's crazy, it's crazy. And I mean, having been in that time and this present time, which would you prefer?
Because the game is becoming tighter. So even in this era, you have to fight your way through it. If you sit down and you slumber, sorry, you miss out a lot. You miss out. People are putting their big foot out there and doing stuff. So you can't afford to just sit still and wait for everything to come to you. You go and knock doors, you send those emails, you call people and do all sorts. Everything right anyway. Just so that you talk to people around you, because a lot of times we neglect people around us. Those referrals are important. In my circle, in my church, I talk to people. I don't just post on social media. We're really having constantly talking to people, reminder. So it's almost like preaching. Every chance you get to talk to somebody, make sure you tell them what you do. That's what I do now. Every chance I get, I leave. I do this. I can share my profile. I share my link. I'm looking for this. How can I'd like to, at every chance I get, because you're not the only person who is vying for these jobs and all of that. So you've got to do extra now.
Yeah.
There's so many talented people. Yeah.
And then see the conversation can go deeper, because I also recall that when I was starting, some of this OGs would advise that I move to Lagos at the time. Here shows how things has changed in our industry over the time. There's something I'm curious about, and we had this conversation in the previous episode, which never came out because of the internet issue. We're talking about the quality we want to learn from each generation, right? You talked about how these folks that time in the 2010 will come into the studio, they knew their stuff, the house of the everybody was on point according to what you're saying. And I don't know what the training process was like exactly. If you fast forward to this era, there are institutions of learning for voice actors now that people can go enroll. Back then, I could argue that there was none, except that I am aware that AVOA, which is the association at the time, had this induction process that included some training and stuff. And not everybody was, an AVOA person. So what were the qualities that you could say made people quality voice actors at the time, great voice actors? What was their process? Were there things that patterns similar that you say, these were the processes these people went through to become what they were at the time? Okay,
I think, like I said, I know for a fact that a lot of voice or presenters, broadcasters, newscasters, went through, majority of them took broadcasting lessons, went to study broadcasting in the university. I know for a fact that elocution and diction was very important back then. So the way they spoke, the way they pronounced their words, the way they articulated their words were very, very important to them. I think that's what makes them stand out from those of us right now here at this moment. So elocution classes were very important. So back then at Radio Nigeria Training School, that was a major part of the course. Yeah, it was a major part of the course. It was very important. I don't know. The training is different now because right now you have a beautiful voice. You want to know the basics of voiceover artists. But for them, it was different. You've got to know how. It's not about your voice. So you've got to know how to speak and to speak right. And then secondly, they were very career oriented. I want to believe They were punctual, they were very orderly, they were very matured. I won't say that they're not matured people right now, but they just do things differently.
They were more
Millennials are
grown-ups,
different.
actually.
More grown up than
We have more
what we have right
younger
now.
people.
They grew up before they grew up. So they had grown up before they got
Exactly.
into
They were
the
career people, right? They were
yes.
working in offices. They had corporate life and all of them. Unlike us, that were just full-time.
You had integrity, you took your job seriously, you know that you're putting yourself out there, you cannot afford to be, it was just very straightjacketed and very orderly like that also, compared to right now that everything, you're learning from here and there from people. It seemed like they had a structure, kind of. I don't know, it's not corrected. But that's the difference that I noticed.
Interesting. I like the feel. But let's get back to you, Christian. You've survived, say what now, 15 years and counting. Tell us about, your reintroduction into voiceover. And I say reintroduction because the lockdown period sort of like was the beginning of a new era. The era was
Yes,
already
true.
starting like late 2017, 18, 19, when people started waking up to, and I think pay-to-play sites ushered in that new era. And people started waking up to the ability to get gigs internationally via Upwork, Fiverr, then Voices and the likes. And that brought about people seeing the need to have their own home studio and all. So now let's talk about you reintroducing yourself to this era of the new system. How was that like for you? How did you blend in?
Okay, so when I started in 2012, I think it was just like a hobby and, just enjoying the fact that I could make money. But I didn't know the business of voiceover until, like you said, just after the lockdown. So I stumbled upon, while I had Eric holding my hands and Dimitri and Lord Frank holding my hand all the while, I stumbled upon the voiceover workshop conference on YouTube and met King E. And then the likes of you and so many other people. I think that changed for me. Then I started hearing about the business of voiceover, it's the importance of getting trained all over again. Started hearing about the pay-to-pay sites that you're talking about, marketing, finance, everything is now different. And I thought, okay, I can actually take this very serious. It can actually be a serious career. I started hearing more about animation, the opportunities in animation, corporate reads, just the different genres, saw different opportunities, unlike, before the lockdown. So I decided to get trained again because, hey, learning never stops. And that's how I got into voiceover workshop. It was virtual. I wish it wasn't, but hey, that was what we had at the time because of the lockdown and stuff. And then I started meeting so many people, started exchanging ideas and talking, and yeah. So it has helped me to grow. It has expanded my horizon. It has expanded my desire. It has increased my desire for, to get more opportunities. So I'm signed to a pay-to-play site. I'm doing more. I hope I'm doing more. Yeah, so.
Yeah. And speaking of doing more, if you were going to start afresh, like if you were just starting a voiceover career in 2024, with the things you know now, right? How would you start your career? Well, you've never been a voiceover?
I think I'll do it the same way. Because they all have their advantages and disadvantages. I'll do it the same way. That experience was necessary, and this is also necessary, but I'll just add some more. Marketing has always been a challenge. Yeah, I will just do more marketing, know how best to market myself and search for opportunities, go after them. One of my mentors often says that the proof of desire is pursuit. So if you desire something, you've got to pursue it. So I'm just going to find better ways to pursue my desire and not just wait for it to come to me. Because a lot of times we feel like, well, I'll just sit down. But no, the world has gone past that, especially in our industry. So you've got to do a whole lot more. And so, like I said, there's so many talented people. And in fact, there are some people who are not talented, but they just know how to go after what they want. They may not be as talented as you, as skilled as you are, but they just know how to go out after what they want, and they get it. So I'll just do more of that and share more of the knowledge that I have and teach and share my experiences and earn a good living from it too. And hopefully 20, 50 years down the line, somebody will hear my voice and say, oh, that's Christian's voice. That's, and just be one of those memorable voices like that.
Yeah. But come to think about it, our voices never die.
Pardon?
I said, come to think about it, our voices never die.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
All right. Let's talk about community. We'll talk about community because first time I met you through a community. And that's the Voice Acting Africa community, founded by Nominees. And that was one of those times we would chat, and on Clubhouse we would have one of those conversations. Remember back then, and that was the first time I think I was hosting one of the meetings that day, and you talked about how you got started, and it was from you that I heard about your first gig in 2011, earning $6K, and that was when I was angry at myself. That this was like 2021. I was like, 2021. Somebody's still struggling to pay me 70K. Christian has been earning 70 since 2011, right? But that's a different case. So community. We met via the community, and let's talk about the importance. You've also been a community manager for the Voiceover Workshop and Media. What's the importance of community for the voice actors?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
What's the importance of community for voice actors?
And the importance of community for voice actors. You know what they say, iron sharpens iron. Growth, inspiration, encouragement, support. A place where you can be yourself. A good community, actually. So if you're in a community, you get inspired, you get encouraged, you get pushed, you get motivated. These are the importance of being in a good community for any voiceover actor. Whether you are an OG or a newbie, you need to find yourself in one, because learning never stops. If you're an OG and you feel like you don't need that community, you're missing a lot, because there's some things that you will learn from the newbies and from other people. It's very important. Sometimes you don't feel like doing anything, you don't feel like you're worth it, you don't feel like you're getting anything, and those motivations and that come from the community can be very helpful. A lot of people they'll probably suffer from imposter syndrome, and you feel like I'm not good enough. And then someone in the community just hears you and says, no, I think you're amazing. I think you just need to tweak this and that. Being a community manager at Voiceover Workshop has strengthened me, really. It seems like I'm trying to help people, but instead it was strengthening me. Or maybe it was just, give and take kind of relationship. And I'm very grateful that I had, Kingi and Voiceover Workshop gave me that opportunity. Because a lot of times you have people call me and I'm not even feeling myself. I'm not in the mood. I don't feel good about myself at the time. And then someone calls you and says, Christianne, I recorded this. Oh, this and that, this and that. Oh, how much am I supposed to charge? And I'm looking at myself, really? Oh, okay. And then you find myself giving the right advice, and they leave feeling much more relieved and all of what's not. You have people call you and say, okay, I just got a client. How much am I supposed to charge for this? Sometimes I reach out to you and I say, what are we supposed to do? All kinds of things. Oh, I don't have this equipment. How do I go about it? Oh, I'm not motivated. Oh, I don't know how to create content. Oh, I don't know what genre, I should just specialize in, and all of that. But so that's that opportunity where you are, that community where you're able to get all of this put together is very important. Nobody's an island. Nobody made themselves. Like I said at the beginning, there are a number of people that I would mention that have been a part of my journey, and it's very important. So even the so-called newbies in that community have been a part of my journey. And one way or the other, they've inspired me, they've pushed me. There's some people who are so good at creating content and they're pushing themselves. I'm like, wow, okay. Today, you and Sarah have inspired me. They've been nominated for SOVAS, and I'm like, what? I'm next in line. So community is extremely important. You really can't do it on your own. I mean, you can go fast, but you can't go far. Is that how they say it? Or something like that, Jack?
Shout out to communities like the Voiceover Workshop and Media has an alumni community. Voiceover Academy does. Nominees, Voice Acting Africa does. APVA does. These are good communities for voice actors in Nigeria, and also in Africa. And one of them, which is again, Voiceover Workshop and Media has been creating a conference called the Voiceover Conference. Had it for 5 times now, right? 5.0. That's what we did last. And I just thought it's important that I highlight your contribution there, because for some funny reason, events like that, of that scale, it takes a lot of people to make them happen. But it's also very easy for people to be absorbed into the background. And, you really don't know the kind of hard work that it puts into it, the sacrifices. I know because I am in the team that put together the Voiceover Conference, same as you. And we know how we worked tirelessly and the sleepless nights and all. You were coordinating things. So just tell me a bit about that experience before we round off this conversation for you.
All right. Okay. So first, we'd like to celebrate King E, Voiceover Workshop boss, our big boss, We celebrate you, King E. Thank you for that opportunity. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, he thought us worthy to be part of that team and, to be able to help bring that dream alive. And it's an amazing one. To put together the Voiceover Conference is not a small feat at all. So we appreciate that opportunity. I appreciate that opportunity. It was a lot of work because, hey, sometimes, God puts you in a place where you're there to support someone's dream. And then you have to do it right. You're not thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about reward, that this person's dream must come to pass. It must work. So you would do it well. Do it as unto the Lord. Do it as though it was yours. That's basically what we do. We try to cross the T's and dot the I's as much as we can. Try to cover up that which we can cover up and publicize as much as we can. Just do our little bit. He did most of the work, but again, we need hands. He needs hands, he needs support, and that's what we're there to give. And we'll always be there to give our support as long as the conference continues to exist. So, yes, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do, from finding facilitators, putting the program together. The behind the scenes is a lot of work. And then on that day, you see everything coming together so beautifully well, and you're just pleased. You can't just wait for it to be over. I'm like, okay, we're ticking this one onto the next. And you see the impact that the conference makes. You see a lot of people being excited. As someone who's behind the scene, that day at the conference, I'm just standing at one corner and looking at how so many talented voiceover artists, people are excited, they're thinking about the opportunities, the speakers, everything that is going on. Like, wow, this is a different world of its own. And then think about how it's time for Africa to tell its story. Look at all the voices that will be telling us the stories. It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's really very interesting. I'm very humbled and very glad to have had the opportunity, still have the opportunity to be part of it.
Yeah. Shout out to King E, the founder of the Voiceover Workshop and Media and the Voiceover Conference. He's doing great stuff for the industry. He always inspires even myself because he doesn't stop working. He's doing something. He reached out to me last week again and said, "Hey, I've got this in December." And I'm like, "Oh my." So shout out to the pace setters in the industry. All right. For those who are wondering where is Serah, I think she has some network issues, so she hasn't been.
Yeah, network's acting up.
Yeah, minutes. Yeah, but then we have to get the conversation going, and we're gradually coming to the end of the conversation. But just before we round off, Christian, I'd like you to tell us about your work. Plug in your work. You are a voiceover artist, of course, and I don't mind if you tell us other things you do by the side if there are. But then I know that I know you're the manager of Macario's Hub. So you want to tell us about that? Tell us, just like you're selling yourself on the podcast, because thousands, if not millions of people are going to listen to this, right?
Yes.
Wow, and they'll come looking for you. So
yes.
Sell yourself.
Okay, so besides being a voiceover artist, we also offer transcription services. Transcription, that's converting from audio to text for people who are interested in converting, their text to, their audio to text. I mean, voiceover artists, we convert text to voice, right? But as a transcriptionist, we convert from voice to text for those who want to put their books together and all of that. I used to work with a ghostwriter and on so many autobiographies. Very interesting, very tedious. So I do it for a good pay. It's a good money is a good motivation for transcribing. So I do that on the side. I'm also trying to get into corporate comparing. I do that on the side as well. But for now, voiceover is at the front of all of it. So yeah, corporate narration, audiobooks, corporate gigs, everything voiceovers for now.
Wow. I mean, I can attest to Christian's talent. I have had the opportunity to produce your work, a couple of times, and sometimes I'm literally editing and I'm like, no, I need to stop. You hear that? That was great stuff. You have quality in your voice. Like your voice gives that premium. Now, I'm very serious. See, the thing is that we all have different voices and they give different vibes, right? My voice, I know it gives that very lively, jivey, youthful vibe. When I work with your voice, it gives a lot of like premium. And that's good. And your stuff. Either it's animation, audiobooks or commercials. So well done, Christian.
Thank you.
It's been a good conversation, and I've been looking forward to it. And now we're here at the conversation, and I want to say big thank you.
Thank you. So
thank
much
you for being on the
Sarah.
Everything Voiceovers podcast.
And you're doing amazing. I'm one of your biggest fans, right?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you've been very supportive for a while. I mean, since we knew each other, and I want to say a big thank you to you and to every other person that supports the Everything Voiceovers podcast. There are people that have been listening to this podcast since we started in 2022, and now this is 2024, 3 years and counting. And
well done. How do you do this? So, am I allowed to ask you questions on your podcast? How do you put all these things together? I can't ask you outside this, right? How do you do it?
I think it's just the passion to
so some of us
help.
need to
they say with
passion, right?
I'm not saying it like that too. But I recognize that not everybody is going to be, how do I put it now? We'll have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
Sure.
And we apply the things we know or the things we knew before we got into this space. Most of us tend to then apply when we get into this space. So maybe people who were good teachers before they got into the voiceover space, they want to now foster teaching other people voiceover. People who were good brand managers or stuff like that. So there's just, and for me, right, I've always been a broadcaster, speaker type person, right? So when I got into this space, I used to love podcasts. I still love podcasts. And getting into this space, I was looking for podcasts that I would listen to and enjoy conversations about voiceover. I did find some podcasts, and I really love them. I still listen to them. By the way, and Ganguza on our podcast featured my voice in the beginning of our episode, in the last episode, which came out this Friday, and I was so gasped when I heard my voice. I was like, is this real? And I went to another listening platform because I had sent a voice note to her via email one time like that. So shout out to her. And she was one of my inspirations to doing this podcast.
Great.
I felt like there was I knew there was not so many podcasts. I only found one South African podcast that talked about voiceover at the time. And I listened to many episodes. I almost finished it. I was like, it's mostly South African, which is very understandable. She was interviewing all people from South Africa. I wanted to know what's going on in other African countries because at the period in my life, I began to get more Pan-African. So I said, okay, let's start this. I know that so far we've done more of Nigerians on this podcast, but we're looking to, go beyond. And now we're looking at someone from Ethiopia who will still try to reach out to and all of that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think if I answer the question, so I'm just applying my strength that I brought into the voiceover industry.
Great, it's admirable. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. I think we've had ourselves a great conversation, one for the books, and I look forward to more things that you'll be accomplishing in your voiceover career and how you will continue to impact. Because I know you train people voiceovers as well.
Yes, I do.
You've been doing that. Yeah.
Handedly.
And so for people who would like to reach out to you, how do they get to you?
Okay. You can send me an email. It's Macarios Voice. Macarios is spelled Makarios voice@gmail.com. And I'm on Instagram at Macarios Voice. It's easy. You can send me an email and then I'll take it up from there.
Okay. I think we'll drop that in the show notes so that people can easily access it and just click a link and it gets
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much to Christianne, and thanks to everybody congratulating me for my win. No, for my nomination. It's a win anyway. That's how I say it.
It's a huge one. Every nomination is a winner.
The SOVAS nomination. Yeah. So that's it for today, guys.
Network.
Thanks.
Sending my love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a fabulous person. So that's it for this week, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast. If there's anything I'd like you to know, this Friday, which is also the day that the podcast, this episode is going to drop, I'll be kickstarting the VO Fireside Chat. The VO Fireside Chat is a series of voiceover interviews on Instagram, fireside conversations that I hold at the end or towards the end of every year. And on the Fireside Chat, I invite voiceover OGs, and not just OGs, my colleagues, young people in the game, people from sister industries. We come and talk about voiceover conversations. This week, I'll be featuring David Atta and Sarah Johnson. And we want to look at life as a full-time voiceover artist, because the three of us are full-timers. So this episode drops on Friday, 8 a.m. By 6 p.m. on Friday. If you're listening to the episode now, please follow me on Instagram at Tcode_70 so you be a part of the IG live series. And it's going to be posted after the conversation as well. So you don't want to miss it. And if you want to show us love, support what we're doing on the podcast, there's a link on our show notes that literally says show me love or show us love. So you can click on it and support the podcast however you can financially. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. This is Tcode signing out. Thank you, Christianne Lamba, and we'll see you some other time.
See you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.